Thank you. Again, my name is Max Porterfield. I'm the president and CEO of Callinex Mines. We're a multi-asset portfolio of existing deposits that sit within known Canadian mining jurisdictions with an exclusive focus, though, on our two new discoveries in the Flin Flon district in northern Manitoba. Before I highlight those, this is what we're going to get into today. We also are backstopped in terms of underlying value by a PEA stage zinc-lead asset in the Bathurst district of New Brunswick with excellent infrastructure. It's flat-lying, near-surface, open-pittable based upon the PEA, as well as a pit-constrained resource in the Buckens district of Newfoundland at our Point Leamington deposit. And again, for the quick readers, here's the forward-looking statements about some of the comments I'm about to make here. And before we get into the discoveries in Flin Flon as a whole, again, you need your capital structure and have an excellent shareholder base to perform. And certainly we have a very, very tight capital structure. We have less than 15 million shares outstanding. I said that right, 15 million shares outstanding. Myself and my family are the single largest collective shareholders of the company at 14%. I own 4% outright, and you can also see in the open market, I've just added to my position over the past several weeks. So very excited about what we're on to. And in terms of our institutional investors, we have the likes of McKinsey, Altius, Resource Capital Funds, Delbrook, SSI out of Europe, to name a few. And I also want to briefly touch on our technical team. I'm not a geologist by background. I think at some point I'll get an honorary degree in geology here. But we really have the dream team, or the Avengers I like to call them, for Flin Flon. Our technical team has been credited with over 15 mines in Manitoba history, which is significant in terms of Manitoba, and 3 of the 4 largest mines in Flin Flon's history, with the exception of the original Flin Flon ore body that was discovered by Tom Creighton. And quite frankly, Tom passed away, so Tom can't join the team for that end when that discovery was made in 1915. But Maslowski saved the town in 1978 with the Trout Lake discovery when the original Flin Flon ore body was going to shut down. Piquel came back with Anglo, won the Bill Dennis Award for the 777 mine that just shut down in May, and I'll talk about that. And then Val's won the Bill Dennis Award for the Lawler mine, which is currently not operating, and really revitalized the Snow Lake area, the town of Snow Lake, Manitoba. So again, we have 100% ownership of all the assets in the company, and we're going to take you to Flin Flon, because if you understand what's going on in Flin Flon and what we're on to at Pine Bay, there's a lot of analogies between the two and where these deposits are hosted. So I'm going to jump in. This is the town of Flin Flon here, and I just want to highlight again real quickly, this is an idle processing facility over 5,500 tons per day. There's a rail line in the town. There's also obviously the hydroelectric power station is in the town. It's, Flin Flon's pretty famous for the access to hydroelectric power, and you have a town that's just been dealt a serious blow. It's 5,500 people that live in Flin Flon, and they've just lost 750 jobs. So that's a significant blow when the 777 mine shut down in May after 18 years of production, which is really the flagship mine for Hudbay in Flin Flon. So to really to kind of understand where these mines sit in Flin Flon, there's a growth fault that's north-south facing. We're looking west towards Vancouver here. And if you're a geologist, we'll take you to Mill Rock Hill, and I'm going to take you there today so you can understand and see that for yourself. But the 90 million tons in Flin Flon sits within 2 kilometers of Mill Rock Hill on this growth fault corridor. And that's the real key takeaway. And I'm going to just jump over real quickly. We'll take you to Mill Rock Hill. I mean, some of the geologists might be in here to see this, but this is a coarse talus breccia. You can see the fragments there. And the largest deposit on that growth fault, the giant 62 million ton Flin Flon deposit that was mined for over 60 some odd years, sits within 400 meters of Mill Rock Hill. And as you continue along that growth fault corridor to the north, and you can see that mill there that sits in the center there, you have the top of the Callinex mine that started 300 meters vertical depth, and then ultimately the 777 started at 840 meters vertical depth and was depleted at 1.6 kilometers underground when it shut down in May of this year. So we're going to take a step back again and looking at the geology, because again, geology drives our exploration approach and model. That's why we spent so much time at Pine Bay when we started this process in 2014. And the host rock are the yellow rocks, and so you can barely see it on the screen, but this small sliver of felsic there is the host rock to that 90 million tons of ore. Our Pine Bay project encompasses the largest felsic volcanic rock package in the entire Flin Flon belt. That's the host rock to over 90% of the ore ever mined in Flin Flon's history, but only makes up 10% of the rock package. And we also have a growth fault out there. We have multiple growth faults, in fact, but we have one main controlling growth fault that I'm going to give you a closer look at, and that now controls 7 deposits. 2 of them are past producing mines. One has a head frame on there, and then our 2 new discoveries that sit in proximity to our mill rock outcropping that I'll show you here. So this is Pine Bay. This is an aerial looking over Pine Bay. And we have, again, Mill Rock Mountain. I'm from Texas, so everything's a little bit bigger than what we do. That's a growth fault corridor that's exceptionally a lot longer than the one you see in Flin Flon. And you can see the stacking of all these deposits in the Alchemist deposit, which is brand new discovery, and then Rainbow that you can see that sits right here are the two discoveries that we've made since 2020, one in 2020, the other one in earlier this year. And then all this historic production, exploration has been made over 2 kilometers away along that growth fault corridor at Pine Bay. And I think that's the really exciting part about all this, is that within the main proximal 2 kilometer of that growth fault corridor, within the largest felsic volcanic rock package that's actually seen 100 years of exploration, no one's really looked to where I thought, you know, when you kind of look back now, it's easier looking in hindsight, that really, I believe, the future of Flin Flon lies ahead of us. So again, I'll just want to take you out there. You can see one of my colleagues, Shane, taking some notes here at Mill Rock Mountain. You can see these large fragments that sit there. And then as you zoom out, you can see the stacking. And actually, the Alchemist sits right over here. That is a waypoint that just needs to be slightly moved. Now, in terms of the discoveries, we have some of the highest grade copper discoveries in the world. Our Rainbow deposits averaging 4% copper, 4.4% copper equivalent. On a global basis, to be in the top 10 highest grade copper mines in the world, you need to average over 3.75% copper. So you can see how truly unique this is. And one of the things I didn't touch on earlier is that we sit a 30-minute drive from the town of Flin Flon. Both discoveries sit within a mineral lease. So it was actually permitted in the late 1960s for the Pine Bay deposit. That's historic, that sits, you can see in the middle of the lake there. And again, the hydroelectric power line sits within 200 meters of Rainbow. And you also have a historic headframe and shaft on site. So Rainbow, again, that's a discovery that we made at 900 meters vertical depth. That's the same discovery depth, to give you an example, of 777. And the Lawler mine was discovered at 800 meters vertical depth. We were using a mix of IP. Borehole EM was a new approach for the camp. It was, you know, a one-trick pony Flin Flon in many ways. And this is the discovery hole PBM 111 that was intersected on August 8, 2020. And since that time, we put over 40,000 meters of drilling into Rainbow. We've just concluded the necessary drilling about a month and a half ago on Rainbow to march Rainbow towards a maiden resource. There's 3 stacked lenses. We're marching, looking to publish a maiden resource on Rainbow by Q1 of next year. We just did a site visit recently. And again, that maiden resource is going to be within the first 800 meters of surface. And that's what's really, truly unique. If you previously looked at Flin Flon, you go, oh, the easy discoveries have been found. The shallow discoveries are all found. And you need to look deeper, because that's the depth penetration of EM technology is about 400 meters. And we've kind of thrown that out the window with the discovery of Rainbow. But the big mines in Flin Flon all continue at depth. And indications, again, the resources within the first 800 meters of surface. We've got 2 holes at the 900 meter level, and indications from geochemistry, geology, and geophysics indicates that Rainbow indeed continues at depth. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to find more. We didn't want just one discovery. Call me greedy. I put a lot of pressure on their team to replicate that, and that's really what we're on to with the Alchemist discovery, which I'm super excited about, and we have all day to talk about it after the presentation. But historic exploration on Pine Bay was very, very shallow, and everything was focused over 2 kilometers away on that growth fault corridor. We came out, we did deep drilling in that same area as well. We had a discovery hole in 2016 we couldn't replicate. You see Rainbow, but as I mentioned before, and going back to Flin Flon, what exploration had been done within 2 kilometers of Mill Rock Mountain? And the answer is very, very little. There was one hole actually drilled by my colleague's father, JJ, his father, A.J. O'Donnell, in 1968. Drilled that one hole remotely in the area. We have since did stratigraphic drilling and testing some targets late last year. We had a big off-hole anomaly, followed up, and that's when we discovered the Alchemist. And the Alchemist sits most proximal on Mill Rock Mountain, on that growth fault corridor. It's wide open. It's got a strike, at least the same strike of Rainbow at 140 meters open vertically above and down below. And I will round this out real quickly in terms of, I mentioned earlier, again, Alchemist sits over here. We don't have IP data coverage on Rainbow, but we also have another big target area that sits between Rainbow and Alchemist along that growth fault corridor. And it's actually our largest chargeability iso shell on the entire IP survey in terms of the area that we've covered. And that's an area that we're vectoring on right now. Again, we're marching towards a maiden resource, and I'll just round it out that I think that, again, Rainbow's is going to be significant if you kind of put it in context of the initial reserves of other past-producing mines in Flin Flon. We're also updating the historic Pine Bay deposit. Again, it's 1 million tons of historic at 3% copper, and then add in to the fact that you have the Alchemist discovery. Again, it's just brand new. We see a really bright future for Flin Flon and for our company.